Hello there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I had some negative comments on one of my D&D videos. Actually, on several of my D&D videos, because I did this at the beginning. Alright, for those of you who didn't like that, there was two of them in specific, and they had some pretty mean comments. So, for those of you for those two guys specifically, shout out to everybody's favorite race car driver. Let's go, Brandon. All right, now on with the D&D video, because this is supposed to be a fun video. So here we go. This video is for the newer Dungeon Masters. I have been playing Dungeons and Dragons a long time, since the mid-70s. I started running D&D, AD&D in 1979. I have had a really long and, oh my God, wonderful time playing this game. Anybody who's getting into this, God bless you. Amen. We have a lot of newer Dungeon Masters, though, and the Dungeon Master is an essential part of the game. Excuse me. The more Dungeon Masters, we need all the players we can get, and the players need Dungeon Masters. So I try to give some advice for the younger Dungeon Masters. For those of you who are wanting to start a campaign, and for those of you who don't know what a campaign is, it's a series of adventures with a stated goal along one story arc, and the idea is to advance your player's characters several levels and attain a goal. It's usually every Dungeon Master has his own world, no matter what world he's using. He has his own world, and even for Dungeon Masters that they've been playing a while, but then they've run their world into the ground. They've explored every nook and cranny. This is kind of sort of what it says in a book that I like, and I'm going to talk about it here in a minute. But if the players have explored every nook and cranny, you just want something new, you want to start a new world, here you go. I'm going to give some advice here. First thing, if you're not really sure how to begin, the first thing you want to do is check out the worlds that are already made. The world of Greyhawk, I played in that for years. Forgotten Realms is good. There's a lot of really good ones out there. Find one that you like and start with that. If you want to homebrew it, meaning if you want to make your own world, which I do, because I like the flavor of my homebrewed worlds. I ran a D&D campaign through 2 worlds. It lasted 13 years, and it was, oh my God, wonderful. Great players, had a lot of fun. The first thing, if you're just starting out, the first thing that I suggest that you do is start in a city or a rural area, someplace near a city. Get your little map set up with the denizens in that area. Run your players through a few small scenarios just to get them some gold and a few levels worth of experience, nothing major. This will also let your players develop a sense of camaraderie and teamwork. This will allow you to get to know your players' characters, because you can have the same player running different characters, and it's different characters. Okay? So whatever player character the person is running, the player is running, you have to get to know that to fit it into your world. This will allow you to do that. Let them explore some local ruins, retrieve a stolen necklace or some other item. Track down some petty thieves, whatever. Maybe raid the local evil temple. For loot or whatever. It didn't matter. Just something, anything, nothing major, just to get their feet wet. It builds teamwork. It gets the players used to what the other characters can do, and allows them a sense of camaraderie. In the meantime, while that's going on, while these small scenarios are being run, you should have several weeks to prepare your world for the campaign you wish to run. Make sure there's plenty for each character to do, and that their class and abilities will be useful. A player with nothing to do will lose interest. If your campaign doesn't have anything for the thief to do, he will lose interest. If a guy's running a really great barbarian, and it's all, cognitive type of adventure, he's going to lose interest. If you have a knight who is like a cavalier, for example, and he has certain stated goals for that character, and they're not part of the campaign, he's going to lose interest. You have to have the campaign fit the characters, whatever characters they want to run. Make sure the reward is suitable in money and magic items. Now, I do videos on treasure, money haul, magic items, that kind of thing. I do a lot of videos on that. Go check those out. Make sure that the risk justifies the reward. And be kind of stingy with the magic items. I'm not saying, a +1 item, a +1 sword or a +2 dagger or something like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the big bad items. If it's not necessary for your campaign, you don't have to give it out. It is nice to give them a little perk here and there, a fighter with a +1 sword, or a wizard, maybe with a ring of wizardry that doubles the number of first level spells that he casts, that kind of thing. A wizard with a +1 ring of protection, help his armor class a little bit. That's nice. But the big bad items you want to restrict as much as possible, because they will unbalance your game. Check out my video on magic items. You'll see what I mean. I've done a number of AD&D videos on government types, taxes, tithes, fees, all kinds of economies, treasure, etc. Check those out. Also check out, I did a Star Trek the role-playing game video called NPC Superstar. Watch that one. No NPC, non-player character, that is a character that you run as an ally or as an information source or whatever. No NPC should steal the show and upstage the player characters. The player characters are supposed to be the star of the show. They should only give helpful guidance and maybe help out if it's absolutely necessary. But, limit what your PCs can do. A primary consideration of the design of any campaign is the map. This is one of the important things. Starting point will generally be where the players are, the little area you've already designed. They could also be summoned to a nearby location, alternately, by a noble or some official, a rich guy, the head of a guild, the Thieves Guild or the Merchants Guild or whatever. Regardless, the players will have to go from point A to point B in your game. And the land, geographical features, and denizens between these 2 points must be outlined. They don't have to know about it right away, but you do. Okay? And again, this could be where they have to go to multiple places, which means you have to outline all of it. And you have to have notes of what's where, so that you know what they're going to run into no matter where they go. The end point will be the culmination of the campaign. This is generally where the big bad guy is, along with the goal of the campaign, whatever that goal is. They're retrieving the golden scepter of blah blah, or it's the ring of magical might or whatever the goal is. We're going to overthrow that guy. Well, you got to go get him. For example, the player characters are to travel through a forest to a mountainous region, and then to a seaport. Hang on, I can't read my own writing. To a seaport where they must board a ship and sail to an island to search the ruins of an old castle for magic item X, whatever that is. Which is guarded by, of course, a terrible dragon, because in Dungeons and Dragons you got to have dragons, right? The forest could have bandits and other evil occupants to harry the group. The mountains could have bands of orcs and other monsters. The seaport would, of course, have thieves and other antagonists. And of course, don't forget the pirates during the sea voyage. That's important. Got to have pirates. Everything's better with pirates. All along the way, there could be political and military obstacles. The local lord doesn't want him to go through, or he's going to tax him, or he arrests him for blah, that kind of thing. He doesn't like what they're doing, and he's going to try to stop them. Don't forget the helpful villagers as well. These villagers along the way, they're going to feed and house the party, let them, stay here for a silver piece or a copper piece or whatever. And they're going to heal them as well, because a lot of times players need healing. Yeah, that's the downside of combat. You get hurt. Of course, they're going to charge them a suitable fee for the healing, of course. Villagers are also a good place to pick up information and fresh supplies. Now, don't forget to haggle with them, because book price is nice, but haggling is where the money's at. Okay, you have to relieve players of excess coinage, otherwise they'll get rich and they won't want to adventure anymore. that's bluntly put. That's one of the stated things of a dungeon master. Not all encounters will be violent. If they walk in there, they get the snot kicked out of them by some bandits, and they kill the bandits and they escape, or they escape, and they come trotting into the village all beat up and hurt and tired and everything. The village says, "Hey, look at this. We can help them, and they'll pay us." You see, not all encounters are going to be violent. Some of them are just going to be helpful, and a lot of that is good. As for the nuts and bolts of this fictional world, I highly recommend, and this is the book I was telling you about earlier, the AD&D book titled The Wilderness Survival Guide. They have another book called The Dungeoneer's Survival Guide, which deals with the underground. Okay? This is the Wilderness Survival Guide. This is an invaluable guide for wilderness adventures, plus there's a section on world building in the back called Starting from Scratch. Using the basic map you outlined for your starting campaign, you should be able to expand that map to encompass the rest of the world. Keep in mind the size of various cities. City-states are nations made up of a single large city and the farms and villages that surround it. Larger nations have a number of major cities and towns, a multitude of villages of various sizes, and a capital city where the ruler reigns, whatever the ruler's title is, the czar, the raja, the king, the emperor, whoever. And by the way, the difference between an emperor and a king is there are multiple kingdoms in an empire. The emperor rules the kings. The kings all band together, and they have an emperor over them. That's the difference. That's my understanding. That's much more simplistic, but The Dungeon Master's Guide has sections which outline government types and titles, and a bit of research should flesh out your nations and their politics quite nicely, and I talk about that in the other videos. The more research you do and the more preparation and planning you do, the less improvising you will have to do. Anytime, and I talked about this in another video, anytime I design a new campaign, I design a number of antagonists in different directions from the starting point. All of these have different motivations and different master plans, but no matter which way they go, they're going to meet one of them. It allows them adventure no matter what way they go, because sure as the sun rises in the east, your adventure to the north that you've planned out to with precision and it's taken you weeks to plan out, it's all to the north, and of course your players are going to go south for absolutely no reason. They're going to go south. It's just the way it is. It happens in every campaign. Get used to it. Check out my video, AD&D Stories Monsters. Again, I got to stress this. This is the #1 rule in Dungeons and Dragons. Have fun. The whole point of it's a game. The whole point is to have fun. You're the dungeon master. You have to make fun for your players. That's the whole point. You want to challenge them, but not overpower them. You want to make sure they're having fun while they're earning whatever they get. It's not the goal is not the goal. The goal is to have fun. It's the trip. Okay? If you have a player whose entire goal is to achieve X, and they don't care about anything else but achieving X, they're missing out on the trip. They're missing out on the adventure. The adventure culminates with the goal. The adventure is what's in between. You folks have a good day. I hope this helps you newer game masters out there. And this works for pretty much any campaign. It's just you got to transfer it to space or whatever for whatever game you're running. But for Dungeons and Dragons, it's usually a medieval setting. That's all I'm saying. You folks have a good day. God bless one and all.